I've had a rocky relationship with my parents, divorced since 1999, my entire life. My father married my stepmother in 2000. I was an only child up until this point. She had 4 children from a previous marriage. In the early days of their marriage, she was pretty toxic to me and to my dad's side of the family. Instead of letting relationships between everyone happen organically, she tried to force them. There's a lot of backstory here, and I'm trying to trim a lot of fat to still bring us to the current day, so bear with me. When my parents divorced, my dad was allotted 42 days in the summer and every other weekend. He often would abandon me to be with her family, things would be taken from me and distributed to her children, etc. He would always try to buy me off with gifts to make up for hurt feelings. I often felt like I was on the back burner. I spent that time with my grandparents instead. My grandparents decided to deed me their house when I was 9 because of this, so I'd always have a home when they died. That's always been a sticking point to my father. He would say things like, "That was such an irresponsible thing to do to them, to deed property to a child." It clearly didn't settle well, because he has still made comments within the last few years to other people. My stepmother got into an altercation in 2007 where she shoved my grandfather in his front yard to the ground. I was 15 at the time. We didn't see my grandparents for 8 months after that, and that was after his stroke. Every time my dad would pull some nonsense or defend his wife's actions, my grandmother would pet me and change the will, slowly keeping land from him for when they pass. After this incident, I often wondered why he didn't leave her. They both have a history of only thinking of themselves, to the point too. My grandfather died with poor credit because my dad took out loans and cards in his name. Before he retired, he didn't save a penny. He's been grifting in ways. He has military retirement, but my stepmom blows through it. I've been married for 8 years and I have a child. Before I had mine, my dad and stepmother had 7 other grandchildren. They now have 11 total. My daughter is the only blood relation to my dad. He didn't get to see her because my stepmom kept him from seeing her for the first 3 years of her life. When they split, I feel like I get quality time with him, and I've learned to set boundaries over the years to keep me or my child from being hurt. I've spent the last decade of my adult life trying to heal my inner child and not carry that baggage into my child's life. Learning to love and forgive. If not forgive, at least make peace. I've tried to rekindle a relationship with my father so that he can have a relationship with my daughter. Him and my stepmother have been on the rocks for 5 years and have separated twice. He can't seem to get away. Given where I am in life, it feels like they want something. If not now, then when? I am married and own my own home. We make a good income and work hard for what we have. I've been dreading my entire life for the moment that both my grandparents would be put to rest. It's been difficult in itself to process the loss of someone who was essential in my upbringing, showing unconditional love and teaching me how to function like an adult when I was ready to step into the world. Well, that time is now. We laid my grandmother to rest at the end of last year. The way the deed was made, it transfers to me immediately at her death. My dad doesn't know I have seen the will. I chose not to say anything to have the upper hand. One of my step-siblings has already asked me to deed the house to my dad and stepmother in private. It's all so fresh, and I find it incredibly distasteful to reach out to me when we are still going over the process of settling an estate, which is now a lifetime trust. Someone had to have given her my number, as I changed 2 years back and was very selective who had the new number. Her children would often ask us for money, and it got tiring. I felt used after a while. My dad stayed at my grandparents' house during the week of the funeral. He's been taking things out of the home for years. Little things here and there, like vintage glassware, etc. Out of precaution, I have changed the locks and put cameras up. Not just to keep them out, but because various caregivers had keys to the home and it's sitting empty for the time being. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, but will have to take place this summer. I have no intentions on giving him the house. His attitude has changed with me, and he won't answer my daughter's calls. It is all very subtle, but enough to cause alarm. I'm afraid he will take from the sheds, break in, or try to fight me over it. Perhaps he's still grieving, or he now knows I've seen the will. Am I the a-hole for refusing to give it to my dad? It's not like they left him with nothing. He gets stocks and acres. But the way Will drafted everything he owns goes back to the estate and to me, not to his wife and her kids when he passes. Am I handling this right? How should I? Relevant comments. You are definitely doing the right thing. Stick to your guns and don't feel bad about getting authorities involved if and when you have to. His actions are his own, and he can face any consequences that arise from them. This is your inheritance, and there's a reason it's not his. Do not give any of those horrid people a goddamn thing. They are awful. Your grandparents intended for you to have everything for a very good reason. Respect their wishes. You are not doing anything wrong. It is not your responsibility to protect people from the well-deserved consequences of their own actions. I doubt any of them would lift a finger to help you, but they are all over you for you to do things for them. They are greedy, selfish people, and this is the result of their behavior. The next update. Kentucky filial laws. I have historically had a rough relationship with my father. I don't know if you could call us estranged, but we have a fairly toxic relationship, and I always end up going no contact when he throws his fits. In recent years, he's gotten upset with me and threatened that I would be legally obligated to care for him when he becomes desolate. He is a veteran, so I'd hope that the Veterans Affairs would be of some sort of assistance. The man has lied and stolen from me in my adult years. As a teen, he simply put me last in favor of my stepmother and her children. I went through physical, emotional, and financial abuse. They continue to do so, but have had less control over my life since I went to college 12 years ago. For the last decade, he has lived in a recreational vehicle. He has nothing to show for savings out of 28 years served. I imagine my stepmother spent it all. Fast forward to January, I inherited my late grandmother's home. It's been deeded to me since 2001. He tried to move into it the day after the funeral. I then changed the locks. He is now upset once again. This is an entire story in itself, but his character is why he got shafted out of property in his parents' will. I fully intend on moving out of the forsaken state of Florida to move into my inherited Kentucky home to be mortgage-free. I am a stay-at-home parent. My husband is the breadwinner. So my question is, when he or my stepmother falls into ill health, will I be legally obligated to care for him as I don't have income of my own? Or will they go after my husband's paychecks? I want free of this man and the trauma and abuse he's historically put me through. I'm distraught thinking that one day I'll be saddled with caring or paying for their care when my daughter and I have always been second best. My step-siblings all live on welfare, so it's unlikely that they will have financial means in the future. Update: I and my father have historically had a rocky relationship. My parents divorced when I was 5, and he married the women he cheated on my mother with. I was an only child, and she had 4 kids from a previous marriage. During my childhood years, I spent most of the allocated time dedicated to my father in the divorce with my paternal grandparents. Every 2 weeks and 42 days in the summer. They lived in a different state. I cherished the time I had with them, and they would always go to bat for me. There was some tension caused early in my dad's new marriage, due to my stepmom demanding that my GPs go back to the store one Christmas and get an equal amount of gifts for all of her children, even taking some from me, gifting to her youngest. I spent many times waiting on my mom's sofa, waiting for my dad to pick me up, and he never did. I would later find out he was on family vacations with his new family. I could spend all day telling Cinderella stories, but I need to keep focus on this story. My grandparents picked up his slack. We spent summers learning how to make baskets, gardening, camping, and various different activities. Their home was a second home to me. When I was 13, I went to go live with my dad after some methodical brainwashing, and I then would rarely see my GPs. My grandmother would call, and they would ignore it. It hurt my heart to see it on the caller ID, knowing they were just on the other line, but my dad and stepmom would not allow it unless I sat at a table with them while on a call. Fast forward to summer of my freshman year, we went to visit my dad's side of the family. On the last night, My aunt and uncle who lived next door asked if I could stay the night with my cousins. My SM wanted her youngest daughter to be included. They declined because my SS was a thief. A fight ensued in the front yard that night, resulting in physical altercations. My stepmother shoved my 74-year-old pap to the ground. He had a hip replacement in the 90s and already had a stiff walk. I was utterly terrified and distraught. As the chaos ensued, I packed my belongings because they said we were leaving. I vowed then that this would be the last straw and I would never forgive them. We missed their 50th wedding anniversary because my stepmom was still upset over what his family did to her that night. The next spring, my pap had a stroke and it was never the same. The man that helped raise me during his son's shortcomings didn't remember my name. He died in 2014. Later I left home when I was 18 to go to college where I met my husband. He has been my rock and helped when my dad throws fits in the last few years when he doesn't get his way. He has showed me nothing but unconditional love and support and is the father to our child. Mine never could muster to be. I go no contact with Dad every couple years because of his behavior. There's an old saying that time heals all wounds, but I don't believe that to always be true. I maintained a relationship with my mammy, paternal grandmother, until her death in December. She was a cheeky one who left notes for us to find after death. This woman never forgot a thing when she felt slighted. That also reflected in her will. I inherit the house that has been deeded to me since 2001. My dad knew they would give it to me, but I honestly think he thought he had a chance of fighting me for it. Since 2012, he and my stepmom have been living in a recreational vehicle that is now starting to fall apart. He is retired military and has no savings. Right after the funeral, he stashed his belongings in closets. I discovered this after I changed the locks and added cameras as I live out of state and wanted security for the home before I sell my house and move into my childhood home. I put his stuff and what was owed to him in storage, and my uncle gave him the keys. After learning this, he's been furious. My step-siblings keep reaching out telling me I'm heartless for keeping him out of his parents' home. He called crying, and I coldly told him if they wanted him to have it, they would have left it to him. I also told him he should have treated his parents better when they were alive. I have the deed in my hands, and there's nothing left for him to do about it. The estate is almost settled, and what land he does get will also have my name on the deed. I would rather share my childhood home with my daughter and all the whimsical things it had to offer, even if my dad ends up homeless. Relevant comments. Somebody said, "Sounds like your dad was waiting to get that house, guessing he's flabbergasted. You did cave and hand it over. Just know, if you deed your dad the home and he passes before your stepmom, the house will go to her and eventually her kids. Do not, for any reason, allow them to get access into the home, especially when it sounds like stepmom has a gaggle of unemployed kids, who may or may not have significant others helping them make all those babies they are popping out. Everyone can go get jobs and figure it out." Original poster replied, "It definitely seems that he was waiting. The recreational vehicle and then the clothes. Twice so far, he's made excuses to come get his stuff. He didn't expect me to drive 700 miles to meet him at the door when he thought he circumvented me asking my uncle. He said he had things in the barns. I don't own the barns. He took every tool out of my shed, however. I called the sheriff's office and they arrived as he was leaving. He said he wanted his dad's tools. I let that go. The latest thing is some junk John Deere crap he stuck in a back bedroom. I found it. It's like he planted so much stuff there, but he sure absconded with a lot out of the house during the funeral. And you are right. That was something my husband mentioned to me. Squatters' laws. And the potential for her kids to shack up there. To be honest, he doesn't have the money to keep up with the house. It's older. 1959 with an addition from the 1970s. Plumbing is a hodgepodge. Electrical in 3/4 of the house isn't grounded. A pipe ruptured this summer. Needs new lateral lines. Recluse infestation through the house. No central heat and air. It needs a lot of work, requiring the sale of my home to renovate it. It easily needs $40,000 of work, not to fall apart in the next few years. Solid bones, but dated. It sits on the most beautiful hill, looking over 200 acres of what was once farmland, trees, and limestone. I would never trade it for anything. I promised an update. It's taking me a long time to really sit down and gather my thoughts to update, or rather just really take in the reality of my situation. It's taken me 31 years to really see beyond the rose-tinted glasses of the relationship I thought I had with my father. I did cancel his flight. He did not help us move, but I did end up engaging with him to keep the peace. Quick recap. I inherited my grandparents' home. Father and stepmom wanted to move in. I said no. Dad then decides to leave the evil stepmom and reconcile. Wanted to temporarily move in with us. We said no. He was insisting on helping us move, and we ultimately said no. We are essentially estranged, and he's never really been a parent to me. Would rather love and bond with my 3 step-sisters and all their children than his only child and grandchild. I previously entertained reconciliation, only to be strongly dissuaded by my extended family and Reddit. A week before making the move, he did come to Kentucky and leave my stepmom as he had said. How he did it was cowardly. She was doing laundry on their last day in Texas at their recreational vehicle, and he got in her vehicle and split back to Georgia, leaving her without transportation. Her children are angry. Once he got to their recreational vehicle in Georgia, he parked the car, packed his truck up and trailer, and headed to Kentucky. He spent a week here on his property next to my inherited home. I inherited his parents' house, for those that do not recall. He was essentially camping in a small trailer he would haul stuff in for flea markets and gun shows. He asked if he could use my water hose so he could shower, and I agreed. I have cameras outside, so I thought, what could it hurt? Well, here's where I was wrong. I then get a call from him that water is pouring from under the house. I told him to shut the water off. The house has been leaking since I took possession, as it's got 60-year-old plumbing that will be replaced with the sale of my home. I had my uncle come to confirm and then scheduled a plumber to come look at what needed to be done. This was just 5 days before we would get there, with a moving truck from Florida to Kentucky. A pipe had split under the sink and the water heater had busted during the winter. During this time, a storm came through and the power went out. He found a key I had in a flower pot for the plumber and went into my home. When we got there, he told us he sprayed the yard for ticks, did pest control, and also cleaned and sprayed for pests inside the home. I was livid. I didn't react angrily because at the time it felt weird. I was questioning whether I was wrong, and he was actually wanting to be a dad to me after all this time. So I let it go. That illusion has since passed. We've been here since mid-June, and now I've discovered he's robbed us blind. He's denied it all, of course. Tape had been removed from an old chimney hole, assuming looking for money. Green dishware has been stolen and put on consignment in town and at another local place 40 minutes away. Anytime we have a subcontractor out to give bids on the remodel, he just shows up and tries to hijack the situation. He talked to me like I'm stupid in front of my husband. That surprisingly didn't go well. My husband is as docile as it comes, but that was the straw that broke his silence in all this. My dad didn't take kindly to my husband telling him he needed to mind his own business and be respectful to his wife. He's now staying with one of his cousins in a recreational vehicle. He's still moving forward with his plans to put a tiny home on the land that is nestled between me and my uncle. My extended family tends to avoid him like the plague, even with his repeated efforts to enter the fold. He showed up to their home on the 4th of July with a lawn chair to see fireworks uninvited, and they didn't ask him to leave. Sometime in July, we noticed my dad had messed with the propane heater. It no longer had the pilot light on, and the dial had been moved to 1, which is on the opposite side of the dial as the pilot setting. Either that was incompetence, or he was playing with fate with our lives, his granddaughter's life. He, of course, denied it. I am under the impression we are all in fear of his retaliation. My husband has no such fears and keeps threatening to go into the consignment that has my stolen glassware and making a scene. Honestly, I'm at the point that I'm just going to let my husband deal with him. I'm no longer emotionally exhausted and just annoyed. He shows up randomly with food, which I immediately throw away. The last one had a note on it for my daughter. I wish I had a happier update, but this is what it is. We close on the sale of our home next week and start remodeling soon. I've let my contractors know the situation, and he's not to be on the property. I feel bad having them in the situation. I'm worried he will vandalize the house my grandparents left me while we are in our rental. If I end up as a news story, know it's not a mystery, and know who is responsible. Relevant comments. Original poster reveals more worrisome details about her father in the comments when asked if she's in a 2A or criminals are people state. Both county and state are 2A, or I would have reported his storage unit of unregistered guns he sells without performing background checks. He exited the military, became a consultant, somehow lost his security clearance, and started selling guns. At one point, he was selling Korean AKs to militia groups in Georgia. I wish this was all a joke. My dad is the Frank Gallagher Lord of War, I guess. Somebody said, I'm with your husband on this. Your silence is emboldening your father and pushing boundaries. There's only one way to deal with people like that. Make sure they're aware that you're not afraid of creating an even more public scene than they are. You and your husband should absolutely file a police report and a no trespassing order on the theft and damages he had done. Get your stuff back from the consignment shop. If anything, it makes your father aware that you're not afraid to send him to jail if need be, and no one would bail him out. Original poster replied, the problem with making a report is, I don't have photo evidence that it belongs to me, other than I have the other half of the green glassware set he stole. Last time I called the police for trespassing, the state police sided with Dad's story that I was a disgruntled child and he was just trying to be a dad. Unsure if it was just small-town sympathies or the patriarchy at work. This is also the Bible Belt. Somebody said, if you have the title, deed of the house, property, it is well within your right to have whoever you want trespassed. I wouldn't just leave it at that. I would just tell the cops that he is estranged from me and I haven't had contact with him in years. He just left his current family because he thinks he can get me to fund his lifestyle. He is a stranger and I want him off my property. If your uncle is next door and the same mindset as you, he can back you up by asking for your father to be removed from his property as well, or at least let the sheriff know that your father is not welcome. Another said, he is a stranger, a thief, and has committed identity fraud. Use all your ammunition. He stole his parents' identities and ruined their credit. There is a pattern to all this. Also, you wrote in another post that even the land he would inherit was deeded to you. If that's the case, why not just evict him? Another commenter, get a police report and go to the consignment store and get your dishes back. I can bet they have a higher value than you realize, beyond sentimental value. Document everything he has done. You need to see about getting your property posted so he can't come onto your lawn and cause further damage. Yes, definitely get the police report and get your dishes back. I'm in the vintage biz. And let me tell you, if someone brings in stolen merchandise, they are not only banned from their store, but all others they are friends with. It's a small world in the biz. People know people. This will prevent him from doing business in your town. He'll have to leave the surrounding area to sell anything. And real estate sales, the better ones, will ban him from the premises, since he's known to be a thief. Please let it start with you to stop him. Unfortunately, in the biz, there are these vindictive a-holes. Surprisingly enough, it tends to be men of a certain age. They'll break stuff, hide stuff, and steal it. The teens will steal cheap costume jewelry. It's the older guys who will really rip you off. The thing with the propane tank, that's a definite criminal intent to destroy your house. That's how arson fires are done too. The water to undermine your foundation. And it's $50,000 to get a new one. You and Uncle must combine forces to get rid of this increasingly deranged man.